Hey peoples, what's up? I know, it's been a while since the last episode of the Backstage Cowboys Podcast, but hey, I'm a busy man, what can I say? In case you haven't noticed, this is showbiz. Things are moving. Speaking of which, if you're thinking of getting into the technical side of showbiz, for God's sakes, do it. We need you. There's a bad shortage of good techs out there. On another note, I've been getting a lot of compliments for the quality of this podcast, and I'm flattered. I'm going to take a few seconds and explain my modest setup here. Not very complicated. I usually talk to my guests over Zoom, unless we meet in person, which has been rare lately. And I have my computer hooked up through a USB port to a Zoom L12 mixer and recorder. As for my voice, well, I'm talking through a 20-year-old Studio Projects C1 condenser microphone hooked up directly to track 1 of the Zoom L12 mixer with phantom power on, of course. Now, what's cool about this mixer is that you don't need an external preamp to sound good, and it's also very affordable. Then I hit record on whatever tracks are getting input, and I also can record my left-right master output as a backup. That's very handy when you're like me and you sometimes hit record on the wrong track. Yep, been there, done that. So, all those tracks are then recorded separately onto an SD memory card, after which I transfer them over to my laptop for final editing. And since my eMagic Logic software is outdated, well, I now use Audacity, and that does the job. So, back to the podcast. And back to California. Ever heard of the legendary PAR64 bulb being discontinued? Yep, that's a reality. And one might think, well, not a problem, we'll just install LED DMX fixtures and move on. Of course, in most cases, that is the proper solution, but there are some buildings in which rewiring and bringing DMX to the fixtures is very complicated, if not impossible. Today, we're going to talk to some folks who have engineered a solution to that problem. Two brothers from California came up with an LED retrofit unit that pops right into your PAR64 or PAR56 CAN and runs on your existing dimmers. No install, no cabling, nothing. It's as easy as changing a bulb. I'll let Eli and Wade Novin tell you all about their invention right after this. The Backstage Cowboys Podcast is brought to you by AVL Media Group and Avolights, who make the best lighting consoles in the world. If you live in Canada, you now have access to the Avolights Academy online learning platform. The cost is $229, and that includes an editor AvoKey delivered directly to your door. Head on over to BackstageCowboys.com and click on the Avolights Academy logo to get all the details. Now, if you don't live in Canada, well, that means you're in another country. So if you're in the United States, head on over to avolights.us. Anywhere else in the world, just go directly to avolights.com and you'll find all the resources available in your country. And now, let's get on with the show. Here is another episode of the Backstage Cowboys Podcast. Hey, I got this tune in my head, and it goes like this. Hey guys, Eli, Wade, how you doing, man?
We're good.
All right, so glad to have you on the show. It's been a while.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
I think it was about more than a couple years ago when we met at the trade show, right?
Yeah, we met in Vegas. Yeah.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
All right, man. I'm very happy to have you on the show. We have, I've got a million questions for you because obviously what brought us together was the fact that you guys came up with a solution for the disappearing PAR64 bulb.
Yeah,
right.
And the PAR56 lamp as well. The bulb that is also even more scarce than the PAR64 at this point in time. Yeah.
Oh, is it? Okay. All right. Well, I mean, I don't really have a structure on this podcast. We talk about whatever, and I mean, we will get into to what you have, what you're offering, your product there. What I would like to know is you guys, what do you do exactly right now? I mean, you obviously have this company, but are you doing something else also? What's your function right now?
Yeah, we have different projects we're involved with. We also do some engineering consulting work for various companies in a related industry, but not obviously not competing. And then we're investigating some other business opportunities with some people in the set lighting industry as well. But so we're not only doing this one product, one company. So, and Eli's doing similar things, but he can speak to that.
Yeah, I've maintained some contracting and consulting relationships. I was in medical devices for a little while, so I still have some contacts through there, and mostly in product design, kind of packaging area. But Wade and I are pretty closely aligned on these other projects too, with the exception of the medical stuff. But I spend a lot of time doing sales and marketing actually now, so not as much engineering as we started out doing, but we're getting back to that with some new ideas that we have.
Okay. Yeah, coming from an engineering background, we're certainly learning a lot about marketing. So eventually, maybe that we can hire somebody else to do it for us and tell them what to do, based on our experience. But yeah, no, marketing is kind of a new thing.
Yeah, that's always a problem when you have your company and you have to do everything yourself. You have to promote, you have to sell, you have to, do customer service at some point, and accounting and whatever. At some point, you have to decide what's that part you want to do and what's the part you want to delegate.
Right.
Delegate a lot of it, but it's we're putting the pieces back together after sort of the obvious hiatus from all businesses. So we're kind of investigating what we want to pay to have done for us, or what we want to keep close to our vest, so to speak.
So Eli, you mentioned medical equipment. So you were doing that. Are you still doing it, or is that completely stopped now?
I've actually I was working on a product on a contract job through a friend actually, and we had functional prototypes, and then the pandemic kind of shut everything down, and that product is probably not going to come out. So at the moment, no, but I'm if someone has a project they want to contact me, that's certainly welcome to.
So what kind of equipment were you working on?
I spent some time in the IV pump business for a while, and then this was in an optical eye surgery kind of thing. This newest project. So, and I can't get too much further into that, but the specifics of it. But usually these projects are about packaging. A marketing team will draw a picture on a napkin or on a piece of paper and say, this is what we want. And then the engineering guys will say, sorry, you can't have that. You can have it like this because this is how things are made. And there's a little bit of that going back and forth. And a lot of the projects are like that. But the medical device industry is heavily regulated here in the US. So you have to, as it should be. So you have to also keep those kinds of things in mind. And the quality controls are very high. So it's been nice to come from that background because it operates at a very high level of precision and quality. Yeah. And then you can kind of start there. And if you get into consumer or industrial commercial products, it doesn't require that high level of tolerance, precision and stuff. But if you know that, you can kind of make decisions about cost decisions and stuff and say, well, it doesn't really have to be it has to fit together, it has to work, it has to look good, but doesn't have to be, at that high level. And then an even higher level than medical would be obviously aerospace.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah. So it's good to have that background, but I have to be careful not to let things get too crazy and expensive, in commercial products. So anyway.
Yeah, if you want to be competitive.
Yes. Yeah.
All right, let's move on to the that fabulous product you guys came up with, which is the LED replacement for the incandescent bulbs that are disappearing. Before we move into that, do you guys manufacture other products, or is your focus on that specifically?
Right now, that's our only product,
yeah.
which we're concerned about, obviously, from a business standpoint. And we're looking into releasing other products. Actually, we had another product that we did release, maybe perhaps not at the best timing, of course, was a wireless DMX transmitter receiver.
Yes, I remember.
That was another, it's called DMX Air. Mm-hmm. Basically, it allows you to instantly make any kind of fixture, dimmer, anything that receives DMX, usually by the wire. So you just plug this wireless solution in, and then you can, have that option and that platform in pretty simply. And so we're kind of re-releasing it. We're looking at some marketing campaigns there. But so basically, the two LED lamp formats, the PAR56 and the PAR64 are the two main products, and then we also have this other DMX Air, which is kind of a little very different from a light, obviously, but it's where that's one of our products as well.
Yeah, it's a necessary product, though. Yeah, a lot of demand for that.
Yeah. For the legacy lights, for the legacy fixtures, and the legacy dimmers,
Yeah. So let's move into that product. I'm going to let you describe it as a whole. We'll call it an invention because I like the term. I'm going to let you describe that, and I'll obviously have questions for you after that.
Basically the idea and motivation behind the PAR lamp replacements was that I was doing small lighting shows, and if I showed up with 8 PAR cans at 500 watts or 1,000 watts, I'd start blowing circuits in a small venue. They didn't have the power drops, and that was very expensive to get that. So anyway, I thought, well, I would just buy some LED lamps. I mean, somebody's got to make these things, right? This was 4 or 5, maybe 6 years ago. No one seemed to make them. I was kind of surprised. Anyway, so I just took it upon myself to kind of make some. I figured I can kind of take the bulb, the LED bulbs they have at Home Depot. I kind of found an article about the circuit and what technology they're kind of using. I said, well, maybe I can just scale it up to a reasonable level to have something I could put in these PAR cans. But anyway, so it was sort of an invention out of necessity, as a lot of them are. And then we just took a chance, and we made 500 of them without a single sale, because 500 seemed to be the 500 was a good number to get the discounts, the quantity discounts on parts and the pieces to make it. Anything less, and you're paying twice as much to make them. So we said, look, we'll take a chance. And I think we had one guy who was committed to buying 10 units or something. And I figured, well, there's millions of these PAR cans out there. Somebody's got to buy them at least. And then we found a market that we had no idea had these lamps, and it was the church and architectural market, because I was more in from the entertainment, the rock and roll, the stage, and some, not the theater to some extent, but not really. I was like, I know they have them in theaters, but anyway, that was the motivation. And our initial anticipated market was the rock and roll live sound market, but that actually hasn't been a bulk of our sales. But again, we're really into the I'll call it the architectural market.
Well, yeah. I'm just going to take a pause here for a second. I'd just like to ask you to just be careful with your hands, because when you touch your desk, your computer goes tuk 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 tuk, and I hear it through the microphone.
Okay. Right, you want me? Okay, sorry about that.
More often than not, I don't take the time to do that, and then when I start doing the final the final editing, I go, "Oh God, I should have said something."
Oh, I won't touch the desk at all.
It's tough, eh? Oh, okay. So let's get into the details of that product. So my experience, because I've had a chance to try out your lamp and to demo it. My experience is simply open the can, remove the bulb, put that in, put the dimmer back on, and shut the lamp, and you're done.
Basically that was the design goal, was to just have something that was a drop-in replacement that didn't require modifying the fixture or any installed dimming systems or wiring systems. So that's why we went with the mogul plug as part of the fixture itself. So they didn't really even have to change the plug inside the lamp. Yeah, but that was the goal, to just be simple, because a lot of people don't have time, or the staff or whatever, to change wires, and then you get into all sorts of what wire to use, what plug to use. So it was like, let's just make it plug and play.
Well, in your case, it's really plug and play. It's you remove the bulb, you put that in, you plug it in,
right.
Shut the fixture, and that's it. So that's the mechanical part. Now, if we go into the artistic part, which is beam size, and so I know you have different types of lenses, which is basically a cone that you swap out to make different beam sizes. And I noticed you have the long cone and the short cone. Can you explain the difference between those two? How does that affect the output?
Well, so from my perspective, being a mechanical engineer, it's a packaging problem. So, the goal at the beginning was to package it in the same size envelope as the original bulb, right? Mm-hmm. So and then the other thing you look at from a business perspective is what quality components can we take off the shelf? We're not going to make our own reflectors. I mean, that's a significant investment in tooling and technology. So we looked at the LED emitter unit and the reflector as a system, right? Mm-hmm. So those are a matched system by two very well-respected global suppliers. And then of course we want to maximize the output, which in that form factor. So that's sort of the basis of this, what we looked at. And we looked at a lot of reflectors. We looked at a lot of LED emitters, including some that would have required 3 or 4 emitters to be mounted on the plate. And then you have to kind of put that, you have 4 emitters. So now you have to somehow put those 4 beam outputs back together into a cohesive light field. So anyway, we landed on this set of reflectors, and the short ones, I mean, again, it's a packaging thing. So a lot of PAR cans we found, including the ones we had for testing, have this mesh screen in front of it. So the short set of reflectors will fit behind the mesh screen because it doesn't get any larger than the old bulb. Mm-hmm. But the way ray lights work, the way light rays work, if you have a shorter length reflector, you don't collect as much of the light output from the emitter. So the emitter by itself with no reflector is like 120 degree beam angle. It's huge. So with a short reflector, some of that's still going to be lost sideways or out. Yeah. But again, it's straightforward because these are off the shelf parts to offer them all to the customer. However, if you use the taller reflector, you can get a tighter beam angle. So that's really the motivation there, is just to provide as many options as we can without getting into custom stuff. So the supplier, the manufacturer of the reflector offers that as part of their package to go with the emitter. So we offer it to the customer. We have found that, and getting back to the packaging, if you have a short PAR can or a short architectural fixture, the taller reflector will stick out in front of it.
Mm-hmm.
And some people don't like that aesthetic. They don't want to see that.
Yeah.
Now we did look at reflectors with an even tighter beam angle, and we did find one that can go down to 10 degrees. But the reflector is, I think the output of the cone diameter is like 9 inches. It's huge.
Okay.
So the narrower because we have a 30 millimeter diameter LED emitter, the narrower the beam angle, the bigger the reflector has to be. So, that 10 degree reflector is about 6 inches deep and about 9 inches on the exit diameter. So it won't fit inside of a PAR can. So that's kind of,
it's it's the width of the reflector that becomes a problem.
You're right. Sorry, go ahead.
I was saying in that one particular reflector that is an off-the-shelf product. Yeah, it was 8 inch. It was quite large, too large for PAR can.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry. Right. So, I mean, that being said, we have this kind of standard offering of beam angles, but if someone wants something bigger or wider, in fact, we can get up to 100 degree reflector. We can get down to 10 degrees. And, we always encourage people to ask. You never know. We can come up with, because we're the owners, we're the manufacturers, we're the engineers. If you want to do something, we'll try to make it happen for you. Definitely. There's always
a customizing possibility there.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, that's our goal is to solve problems at the bottom. At the end of the day.
And I'll tell you one thing, I ran into that mesh problem in a PAR can. And yes. That's when I realized, okay, the shorter cones, but I wasn't exactly sure why a set of shorter ones and why a set of longer ones, because I had obviously all the options since I have a demo fixture.
Right.
And now I understand that, okay, so you thought of that mesh thing, which actually could easily be cut out, because at this point, there's no danger in broken glass falling on anybody.
Correct.
Right?
That's correct. And we do, I believe we have that in our literature, that if you have the mesh screen, you're welcome. It's of course up to you, but you could take it out. They actually pop. A lot of them times they're tack welded in or just pressed fit in, and they just pop right out. So, again, it's about providing options at a reasonable cost, and that's part of that. Okay. Methodology, so I noticed that when I was designing, when we were doing the packaging design, and you look at it on the computer, you can see, oh, wait a minute, it's not going to fit. we gotta look at that. So yeah, better to see it on the computer first, and not after you've made thousands of these things.
Yeah, I'd like to talk about that that centerpiece, this sort of frost that snaps into the cone. Before you insert it in front of the LED. What's the function of that piece?
That again, that's part of the system that is offered by the maker of the reflector set. It is a diffuser, so it does give you a little bit of. I don't think there's a real hard edge on the reflectors, but it does. That's what it's called, and that's what its function is to sort of diffuse. I mean, the LED array is if you look at some LED arrays, you'll get some fringing or interference effects around the corners. So it's supposed to smooth that over. I think that LED array is so large that you may not notice it anyway. But that's its main function, is to provide a little bit of diffusion, and then also to kind of protect the LED from a finger or whatever going into it. That's they will, if it gets hit with a object, a screwdriver or something, it will damage the element itself. So generally we ship one with every unit. We generally suggest people use it, but it's a optional in a sense. So.
Well, have you tried testing it out with and without that piece?
Yes.
The
Yes.
diffuser? Yeah. What do you prefer?
Because we have to support the product after we ship it, I prefer people use it
Yeah,
because
of course.
But I don't notice a huge difference. I haven't taken a close look at how that works, and I think to me it doesn't make a huge difference. I don't think it's changing the color quality of the light. I don't think it's shifting it at all in terms of the color temperature. It's a good question. I'd be interested in hearing what you think after you've tested it.
Yeah, I've done several tests with the fixture in the past, and I am going to do a couple more. Now that I've got a different application now, I'm going to test it out at an 80-foot throw. So it'll be interesting to try with and without, see how that comes out.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, of course, there's a little bit of, I think it's a few percent of output loss because you're going through you're projecting through a piece of plastic. But other than that, I don't think it's doing anything other than a little bit of diffusion, a little bit of softening the individual LED diodes, that are in that array. It's going to smooth that out a little bit. But.
And let's talk about the array. So what kind of array is it? How many dots is there, or what's the structure of the LED itself?
That's a good question. How many? There's a lot of them. Right. It's what's called a chip on board.
Yeah.
COB. So there's a large array of individual emitters, and actually, if you dim it down to very, very low, you can see it. If you take the reflector off, you could actually see the individual emitters. I could look that up, but I don't know that off the top of my head.
It's on the order of a few dozen, I would say, based on looking at the count specifically, but there's quite a few. Yeah.
All right. So let's talk about the quality of dimming. I've had a chance to try them out. I noticed that there's it's pretty impressive, the quality of dimming and how you're able to you don't see it, you don't see the steps really, obviously, because we're dealing with voltage here. But what were the technical challenges to get an LED to react with that kind of quality to a regular dimmer? And I understand that at the beginning, when the fixture is totally off, so your dimmer is at 0, and then you need some kind of power to get the thing to start, right? So how do you deal with that, and how were you able to get such quality dimming?
Well, we used a manufacturer's part off the shelf that kind of controls and regulates the LED. So basically, it converts the dimming on time. So a traditional dimmer works by basically delaying the on time of the power to the lamp on each cycle. So we have AC current. I won't get too technical, but basically it interprets the dimming signal of a traditional dimmer designed for a traditional filament lamp, and it interprets that signal and converts it into a current level or power level for the LED. So it's a pretty smooth analog type of function, all the way up from 0 to 100. But basically, yes, you have to. There's a little trickery and electronic black magic involved with taking a typical system for filament lamps and converting it into what LEDs like, and that would be direct current. So not getting too technical, you kind of borrow some technology from like computer power supplies in a sense, because they're called switch mode power supplies. So and there's a lot of electronics involved. But fortunately, this manufacturer of the controller chip, it did a very good job. I'll give them credit for that. And then the supporting circuitry, because you can get into issues with flicker and some other issues with different types of dimmers will react differently. So you want to try to have a universal type of system. And there's other supporting circuitry, like to drive the fan and to kind of monitor the heat. So if it overheats, it shuts down the lamp. So I would say the challenge was a thermal challenge more than an electronic challenge, in a sense, because we had to make sure that we could keep the LED cool enough and all the parts within tolerance levels so they would last long. So designing the heat sink and the airflow, which we have patented in our documents. But it took about a year and a half to get it where I liked it to a stable system that would work on almost every dimmer out there. So that's
and I think the supporting circuitry is what's fundamental to the patented aspect of this. I mean, it's fine to buy a chip and put it on a board, but it has to be, you have to deal with the filtering and the ringing and like you said, the fan and that kind of thing. So, I'm not an electronics guy, obviously, but I would say we're not going to get too into the details of it because that's all proprietary stuff, which it's nice to hear that it was successful and worked well. So,
yeah. What would you say the lifespan of the LED chip be in that configuration?
Well, the lifespan of the LED itself is rated by the manufacturer of that particular cob, and it's like 50,000 hours guaranteed before it starts losing output and the color temperature shifts a little bit. There are electronic components that are somewhat temperature dependent in terms of their lifespan, and that's just there's no way around it. So, the power supply is probably not going to last as long as the LED itself. You can switch. The power supply is easy to switch off and so on and so forth. But under normal circumstances, in a reasonably temperature controlled environment, I would expect to get, off the top of my head, doing a quick calculation, because we used long life. I went out and found all the long life high temp parts.
Yeah.
So even if you take the long life high temp parts and in an environment that's reasonably well temperature controlled, you double that. So, you could be looking at 30,000 hours on the power supply,
Okay. And does it make a difference in your experience? And you might not have the answer to that because nobody's tried an LED that long. But would it make a difference in the deterioration over time, over heat and time, if it was ran at, let's say, 30% rather than 60 or 90? Or does that make a difference?
Yeah, sure. Because if you run the lamp at 30%, the temperature is is quite a bit less inside the unit. But
there's I know there's a fan that cools off the circuitry, and does that fan is the speed of that fan related to the intensity of the light, or is it full on right off the bat?
No, it's full on. It slightly adjusts, but not a whole lot. At the higher temperature, it's going to turn a little faster, a little more airflow. But no, it's not really. The design was just to come on, pretty much full power, even at the lowest dimming setting.
Okay.
That was more sort of a simpler way to do it, I must admit.
Well, yeah, and if you're not using your lamp at full power, then you're actually making it last longer because you still have the full cooling.
Yeah,
Well, and just for some scale, the old bulbs, 1,000-watt PAR bulbs were rated at like 800 hours.
Yeah.
So, and I've heard that the ones that are being sold now, which are made overseas, are lasting for a few hundred hours. So, we have customers. Yeah, we have customers with church customers with 50-foot, high ceilings, and they have to get a scissor lift out to replace them. And so and they're using the bulbs. I'm hearing a few hundred hours a week. I mean, so what are we talking? Everyone wants to talk about the life of the LED, but in a lot of these environments, it's going to be, unless there's a component issue that's not related to life, it's going to be a decade, right?
Yeah.
So,
and those bulbs coming from overseas, I mean, I've seen bulbs not turn on, or just they work for a few minutes. So
yes, or they're So
incandescents or LEDs?
I'm talking about incandescents.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
That's what I've heard.
Oh yeah, we've had some bad ones. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I can also say that we did have a unit. We had 5 or 6 units sitting in a 24-hour a day operation that I won't name who it was, but they ran them for a year. They were running for at least a year, full blast. I received them back, and you could tell that they had been run.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, but I did some measurements, and they were still putting out the full output.
Wow. As
compared to a new lamp. I mean, they had some other damage from being shipped back with no shipping material, which I'm still irritated about that. Wade knows what I'm talking about, but it seems to be a robust based on that, demo basically of a year to 18 months of continuous use.
It's always nice to have some experiences like that, and trying out in different environments and things like that. It tells you a lot about your product. There's a dimming question I have. Like we're going from analog to digital dimming. In the transition, how does that translate to the LED itself? Are we talking about a certain amount of steps from 0 to full? Or does that work another way? What do you mean?
Well, what do you mean by digital dimming? Like you're talking about more consoles and control. Are you speaking more to the console and control side, where there's like boards like that are more digitally oriented in terms of being able to control?
Well, I'm actually talking about at the light itself. From the time, because obviously the signal coming in is not an electronic signal; it's an analog signal. You're sending voltage, and your circuitry is translating that voltage to obviously an electronic signal. So at the output, is there a certain amount of steps from 0 to 100, or is there another thing that I don't quite get? How does that intensity get translated to the LED itself?
Well, back to speaking of the electronics. Well, again, remember that this was designed to work on typical dimmers, which are called triac-based dimmers.
Yeah.
So they, depending on the quality of your controller, you could have almost an infinite variation, right? Mm-hmm. From 100%. Now, DMX signaling, which is used to control lighting almost universally, only has 255 steps.
Yeah.
So, which was good enough, and it's still being used today. It's universal. So, the circuitry inside the light, the controller chip that we use has a much finer resolution than 255 steps. So you're not limited on that side. Now, digital dimming can mean a lot of things. If you're speaking of like fixtures that are completely LED, like panels that you see a lot of those lights out there, and the newer kind of stage lighting LEDs, those are dimmed through a totally different process and a totally different controller scheme. It's called PWM, and that is digital. Our lights wouldn't work on that because ours are for mains AC 120 volt dimming systems.
Mm-hmm.
So, again,
Well,
go ahead.
I think it's possible what you're asking is the LED cob is the voltage that's being sent to the LED cob stepped digitally?
Yeah.
No, it's not.
It's
It's always seeing, it's not the line input side is not being sampled by our electronics and then
I see.
being split up into steps. I think that's what you're asking.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So there may be stepping from the DMX controller to the dimmer pack.
Yeah,
but from the dimmer side all the way to the LED emitter, there's no sampling being done. There's no signal digital. There's no DSP process that could result in that stair stepping. If you see stair stepping, it could be that the dimmer controller doesn't have enough resolution and it's stepping the dimmer pack.
Yeah.
But that's not happening inside of our lamp.
Okay, so your
It's a
lamp,
constant
the dimming of your lamp is as smooth as the control to the dimmer can be.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. This brings me to another question, because we all know the flicker factor of LED lights in regards to cameras.
Yes.
Now, in your case, how does that translate?
We don't have that problem because the controller is what's called a constant current controller.
Mm-hmm.
So the lamp is the LED is on continuously.
Okay, it's not flickering.
Right. What's changed is the level of current to the LED. So a lot of other lamps where you see the LED lamps, where you see the flickers, they use a different scheme to dim it, where they're turning it on and off faster or slower. That's called PWM.
Yeah.
So that it's actually kind of an illusion of being dimmed because your eyes don't respond as fast, and it's basically turning on and off a light switch. It's very slow, very fast, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
We do not use that technology. And again, it's constant current, so the LED's on constantly at whatever level you set for it. You will never see the flicker. Yeah.
I've just learned something, because I thought all LEDs worked. The intensity of an LED was controlled by the flicker rate, and so in this case, we're really dealing with voltage and not flicker. So you're
sure.
The first time I see that an LED is fully on, and I'm pretty sure that the LEDs in our houses that operate with regular dimmers probably work in the same manner, right?
They may be constant current as well. In some ways, it's a little less expensive to do a constant current than it is the other kind of what's called PWM, because you have to have a microcontroller in there and so on and so forth. But no, I've seen them both ways. So I don't know which when they're making 10,000 or not million of these lamps for Home Depot, I don't know what's cheaper for them to make it, what technology they choose. But yes, you'll see a lot of LED lamps that have the what you call flicker, which is switching them on and off real fast. But to take that out to the customer side of things, a lot of our customers are moving to streaming in the church arena. They're moving to providing a live stream of their events and services and so forth. And so that's been a big factor. We're seeing a lot of these venues upgrading their technology to LED, because now they're not just lighting the seats or the house or whatever. They're actually now need to provide a high quality, reliable light source to be able to broadcast live whatever they're doing, and that's where it comes in with this seeing the flickering on camera. That's a big question, and we're able to address that need. Sorry, I turn it back to a bit of a sales pitch, but if it's relevant to
try to make it, make sense for someone who's
information
listening.
is information,
Yes, of course. Yeah.
What's the CRI on that fixture?
Right now we can offer, depending on the color temperature, we can offer 90 plus.
Wow.
CRI.
Okay.
They're getting into a little bit of the technology of how the LEDs are made. You can get a little bit more output with a lower CRI LED emitter. So because of the way they apply some phosphors in front of the actual light source. So we do, typically for general lighting, the 80 CRI unit is more than adequate. And we can do 2700K in 80 or 90, 3000 in 80 or 90, for 3500 80 or 90, 3500. I said that 4000, and then when you get into 5600, we don't have an 80 CRI unit because it's already so bright that you might as well, do the 90 plus. CRI.
A couple of the color temperatures are available as high as 98. I remember, but I don't.
They are. If we've had a few customers request that, and we can do that, but with the supply chain situation, it can be it can be challenging to get those parts. But if somebody wants a 97 or 98 plus CRI LED, we can do that.
Haven't met anybody yet that requested that, but good to know.
I've seen, we've had I want to say 2 or 3 customers, and they were doing real high end video, in the film industry, big time stuff. To me, this is only my personal opinion. There's a little bit of perceptional and kind of legacy thoughts about the CRI thing. My understanding, I'm not a digital cinematographer or anything, but my understanding is the cameras are so good now that they can white balance, and it's never a problem. But again, it goes back to the reflector discussion and custom stuff. If someone has a need, let us know, and we'll try to figure out how to get it done.
Cool.
That's the bottom line.
So going off the technology thing now, I want to talk about you guys. You're brothers, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. I'd like to ask a stupid question. How long have you been brothers?
For my whole life.
Which is a detoured way to ask your ages.
Oh, I'm over 50.
I will be very soon. Put it that way.
Okay.
50 years, almost half a century, right?
It's getting there.
Yeah, well, I'm almost 60, so I hear you.
Yeah.
So, and how did you get to doing what you're doing now? I mean, there's, after 50 years of life, there's a hell of a background there. Can you tell me how you got to where you are now?
Well, through luck, I don't know. No, we were both in information technology field for a while, doing, supporting computers and networks and fixing people's printers when they jammed the paper in, which I kind of followed Eli into that only because it was paying pretty well at the time. If you could spell computer, spell network, you could get a job. Back in the late 90s, everyone needed a guy who could fix computers. Kind of did our run with that, and then we got into engineering. Sort of a development and design engineering and a little bit of management engineering. I made the transition going from information technology to engineering through a job change at UCLA. And then I went on to a commercial position doing product development support. And then I came up with this idea, and I've always puttered around with side jobs or trying to get a company off the ground. Want to work for yourself. It has its benefits, it has its drawbacks, but this was a project that sort of was, again, to fulfill a need for me. And then Eli can tell you how he joined. I mean, I needed some help doing some drawings for CAD modeling. So he got involved, and then he had some he can go in. He had some job changes too. And then we decided to put a little more effort into this. And anyway, that's how we got here. And again, we've done it. We do other things on the side as well. And, but I guess through the interest of designing and engineering and electronics, I've always been interested in electronics. It's always kind of been a little hobby of mine from, junior high school. I think I took an electronics class just for some odd reason or something. Mm-hmm. And then always been designing. Well, I was into audio speakers for a while, and me and other friend have been trying to get something off the ground, but that's, the profit margins, the money's not there. So that's always been more of a hobby, but this kind of took off, and, we've sold 4,000 units or something worth 3,800 units. So, it definitely was a product that met the market. But anyway, Eli had some of his life story to tell, I'm sure.
Yeah, I similar background early on, I guess, with IT stuff, which, and then I got out of that, went back to school, got a master's degree, and then that led me into the medical device world for a while. And, Wade has always had probably a bit more of an entrepreneurial motivation than I have. Be it speakers or, several companies and doing other things. And I kind of wanted a more stability, I guess, for a long time. Anyway, and then we found ourselves, both of us out of work at the same time for about 6 months, I want to say, which
when
gave that was at the beginning of 2015. So the place I was working at was sold to a much larger company, and they laid a lot of people off. I mean, it was pretty straightforward layoff type of thing. So the timing was right to kind of spend some time focusing on this. I remember I came down to visit and saw what he was doing, and he said, "Oh, can you help me do some drawings for this part?" And I looked at this thing and I said, "There's no way that you can make it this way." I often approach projects that way. Somebody shows me something, I'm like, "It's going to cost you so much money to do it this way. You gotta not do it this way." And that was, and then so we talked about that and toyed around with some other ideas of how to package the lamp. And then from there, it's been we kind of joked about, "Oh, did you go to," I remember a couple of weeks ago, Wade, you made a joke about when did I go to business school? And I said, well, the last few years, it's like, I didn't need to go to business school. We're doing, you have to set up a business. You have to deal with all of the back end stuff aside and the engineering stuff. So, that's sort of the not a very well put together story, but that's the basics of, and again, we initially approached this there was really no competitors at the time. And we figured, well, we'll make 500 of them. If we sell half of them, okay, we'll be okay. If we don't, we won't be, out, we won't be on the street. So let's, take that risk and see where it goes. And, to speak to taking risks, fortunately, Wade and I are from our family background and our socioeconomic background can afford to take these kinds of risks. And that's a big part of it. I'm not sure how many discussions you have with business owners, but that shouldn't be minimized. I mean, you're welcome to edit this as you wish, but we were in a position of financial stability, supporting family support that a lot of people do not have and struggle with. So that's a big factor. I could be out of work for a year or be on unemployment or do side jobs and not lose my house or my, that kind of thing.
That makes a big difference.
It's people often tell these entrepreneurial success stories, and I'm not sure ours is a success story necessarily quite yet, but they, you know, that's that some of that background kind of doesn't get talked about. So sure, we took a risk, but you know, it was a calculated risk.
Well,
and you know, I'm always very impressed with entrepreneurial stories, whether they're successful or not, from people that don't have those advantages that we certainly we started at a level that launched us to be able to do this. So that's
well,
important.
the other solution is finding a partner who is financially stable and can, you know, help start the company.
Yes, that's true, and we are involved in some other projects along those lines that you know, hopefully we'll be able to have another chat about
I'd love to.
next 6 months or so.
Cool.
But anyway, my point is that, you know, it's a lot of these stories are about people struggling by their bootstraps and doing all this stuff. And sure, there's some of that for us, but let's all be recognized that we start at a certain place that many people cannot. So that's always been helpful.
And we supported we supported and support ourselves with other work. You know, we do the
of course
engineering, which can pay pretty reasonably well.
Yes, absolutely.
In fact, the company that I used to work for, that I was let go of, still actually hires my brother, and now they're talking to me about doing some consulting work as well. So it's you know, it's you have to have different income streams and flexible income streams, because, you know, with this, you know, the risk of having some big company come out and just say, okay, we're just going to make 10 million of these things and put them on the shelf for our dealers at $100 a piece, you know, in this economy of scale. And then, you know, that might end the show for us, but, you know, there's niche markets, and we have gone, not directly, but through our dealers, we have gone head to head with some of those products. We have been chosen, you know, either we're either at a lower price point or we're at a higher price point. We're holding our own against some heavy hitters. You know, so I'm happy about that for sure. You know.
Yeah. So how many units have you produced so far?
I'd say
we're getting up to 4,000, something like that, over the last 3 or 4 years. So, you know, it is a proven design. I can definitely at every level. it's you know, from the cost, from the manufacturing procedures, you know, it's out there and it's being used quite a bit. So that's good to see.
And concerning the assembly, are you doing that yourselves, or are you outsourcing the assembly, or
no? We have a manufacturing partner that makes the circuit board assemblies, stuffs the boards, and they also do the final assembly.
Okay.
And testing and burn-in procedure for us. And so no, that's we had a discussion very early on about whether we wanted to be a manufacturing company or not. Mm-hmm. And we may get there someday, but no, at this point, no, it's not made in our garage. It's made in a fully, in fact, it's made at a location that also makes aerospace equipment and other real high end stuff.
It's all in California, right?
It's all in California. Okay. The standard products are ETL rated, so there is an inspection process that happens on a regular basis, which is a whole nother story.
Well, the ETL thing is a big deal for us anyway. I'm in Canada. It is a big deal for us. You wouldn't believe the problems we have. You know, getting fixtures and getting electrical equipment approved. Manufacturers don't want to go through the trouble of having the ETL certification because, you know, obviously there's a lot of sale points where you don't need that.
Right.
So, you know, being in Canada, for us, it makes a hell of a difference.
Yeah, it's good to hear that, because it is It's painful from a business perspective. It's not painful from a technical and engineering side. Our product, the prototype, passed first time, no problems, no issues. There nothing. I mean, it was designed and it worked the first time. That's the easy part.
Yeah.
Dealing with the certification, back end administrative stuff. That's where and now I'm gonna get opinionated, because if you bring up ETL, I'm gonna get very opinionated.
Not so much,
but in some regards, it's a barrier to market, particularly for small companies. That's my issue with them. They are putting up barriers to market entry for small companies, and I don't think it's necessarily intentional, but it's something that you have to factor that in. It's a in terms of weighting a new product, it's a big part of getting a product out there.
As you mentioned, some companies just try to sidestep the whole ETL thing anyway. They don't even bother with it because there's a lot of applications where they don't care. But yeah, it's a significant hill to climb in getting products, and again, fortunately, ours had only minor issues that we had to deal with, but a lot of products that are otherwise good get stuck in that process, and they kind of never make it out, and they have to redesign it and then retest it, redesign and retest it, and then by that time the market's passed them by. But I've heard of situations like that. But it's as much as the certification companies, and being that they're private, are kind of a pain in the ass, and they have to worry about their bottom line as well. And I definitely have my disputes there. At least you have somebody somewhere looking at it and making sure it's not going to kill somebody or catch fire and burn the house down. So you have a little bit of faith in the system that there isn't, that as long as it is being inspected, you're sort of competing on an even playing field, because there can be situations where, a lot of situations where they can't use a non-rated product in an installation. And,
Indeed. The only way we found a workaround, if you're using an uncertified piece of equipment, is to sell it as a part. And then it becomes the installer's responsibility to get the whole installation approved.
Yeah. And they would have to go through a different inspection process of like building and safety, or whatever the equivalent is.
We have CSA over here.
And building safety, and the fire department. And fire department, there was a project we were actually working on or bidding on, and they didn't do the proper certifications in another part of the project. This was a church down here in local to me. And so they just basically abandoned the whole project, which kind of sucked for us, because, ours were rated, but anyway, because the fire department came and said, no, we're never going to allow you to do this.
Yeah.
And, but it's, there's an entire career, and people that are specifically, involved in certification engineering. Excuse me, let me close the door.
Well, anyway, we're getting close to the end, so
Sure.
We're all good. So I just want to talk about your website, which is onsiteled.com. Is that correct?
Yep, that's right. Yeah, it has all our information about our products. We have a contact page there, and we'll be announcing, any new product announcements will be posted there, and we get a lot of our business prospects come from them finding that website through, Google searches and so on for LED PAR lamps. And
that's how I found it.
Yeah. So they can, right, exactly. So they can fill out the contact form, and then we'll respond usually the same day or within 24 hours and set up, get a conversation going and talk about what the project is, what they're trying to do, and just make sure that our product fits the application, and then send a demo out, play around with it, beat it up. See if it doesn't work for you. We don't want to sell it to you. We don't want you.
There you go. And anybody in Canada,
yeah, in Canada as well, we ship up there as well. Yeah,
anybody in Canada wants to try it right now, just contact me through backstagecowboys.com. I have a sample.
Right. Yes. And I was going to say something. Oh, we have Instagram, Facebook. Of course, we have to be there.
Yeah.
So come and check that out. I try to post something once a week, usually a project that we've done. And if you call or email, you'll probably talk to me, which is another thing. I tell people that, if you have an issue or you want to talk about a technical problem or a technical question about our products, you call, you're going to talk to either myself or Wade, most likely.
There you go. Talk to the people behind the product.
Yeah.
Pretty much. Yeah, absolutely.
Directly.
Absolutely.
Well, guys, it was a great interview. I'm very thrilled about this. Thank you very much, guys, once again.
Thank you.
Have a great day, guys. Thank you very much once
All
again.
Right.
And,
thank you very much.
We'll talk soon. Take care.
Okay. Thanks, Scott. All right. Take it easy.
Bye-bye. The Backstage Cowboys podcast is brought to you by AVL Media Group and Avolights, who make the best lighting consoles in the world. If you live in Canada, you now have access to the Avolights Academy online learning platform. The cost is $229, and that includes an editor Avo key delivered directly to your door. Head on over to BackstageCowboys.com and click on the Avolights Academy logo to get all the details.